The screams slicing through my backyard were sweeter than any song I'd ever heard. There was Diana Harper, flushed crimson and gasping like she'd just run a marathon, clawing her way out of my pool while clutching at her overheated skin. A crowd of neighbors, drawn by the commotion, stood frozen, jaws dropped, as she stumbled away, drenched and utterly humiliated, her arrogance finally her undoing. But let me take you back to how this delicious moment of justice came to be a story of patience, cunning, and a pool that became my battlefield. For years, I'd scraped together every dime, dreaming of a backyard retreat. After nearly 2 decades, I made it happen. A shimmering private pool, its water clear as glass, framed by sleek lounge chairs and VY Brant hibiscus blooms. Nestled in the quiet cul-de-sac of Willow Lane in suburban Charlotte, North Carolina, it was my haven, my escape from grueling days at the law firm. For months, life was bliss. I'd come home, slip into the cool water, and let the world's weight dissolve. That serenity shattered the day I met Diana Harper, the self-appointed queen of our neighborhood's homeowners association, who lived just down on Cedar Avenue. Diana, a sharp-eyed woman in her late 50s with impeccably styled silver hair, carried herself like royalty. As president of the Pine Grove HOA, she brandished her title like a scepter, her word law to anyone who dared cross her. I first caught her in my pool on a muggy July afternoon in 2024. I'd left work early, VYing a swim, only to find her lounging in my water, sunglasses perched as if she owned the place. When I asked what the hell she was doing, she fixed me with a look that screamed I was the intruder. Climbing out with deliberate slowness, water dripping from her high-end swimsuit, she declared that, as HOA president, she had oversight PRI-VY legies to ensure my pool met community standards, water quality, safety, the works. I kept my cool, explaining that my pool was private property and off-limits without my say-so. She let out a laugh, sharp and cutting, like I was some naive kid who didn't get how the world worked. "You clearly don't understand HOA bylaws," she said, gathering her towel and strutting out, Leah VYing wet footprints across my deck like a taunt. I stood there, stunned, my sanctuary VY OLAT by this woman's gall. Over the next 3 weeks, Diana invaded my pool 4 more times. Each VY sit was a carbon copy of the first. She'd act like she belonged, spout some fabricated HOA rule about routine inspections, and brush off my protest with a flick of her manicured hand. My oasis had become her personal spa, and I was powerlesser, so she thought. I tried the proper route first, filing a complaint with the HOA board, hoping they'd rein her in. But Diana had ruled the board for a decade, her influence ironclad. They sent me a canned response about necessary access for community oversight, claiming my pool's existence might impact property values. It was nonsense. Diana wasn't inspecting anything. She was treating my backyard like her private resort while I slaved away at work. Frustration turned to fury. The official channels were a dead end, and Diana's smugness was unbearable. I needed a plan one that would make her regret ever stepping foot in my yard without breaking any laws. I couldn't risk GIVYing her ammunition to flip the script with the HOA or drag me into court. The answer came late one night while I was browsing pool maintenance forums. My high-tech pool heater, controllable VY, a smartphone app, could push the water to temperatures most wouldn't dream of. The safe limit was 104 degrees Fahrenheit, but even 98 degrees Fahrenheit would feel like stepping into a steaming bath, uncomfortable, oppressive, but not dangerous. I could adjust it from my office in downtown Charlotte, watching her every move through the security cameras I'd installed after her second trespass. The plan was VY-lishly simple. Crank the heat to 98 degrees Fahrenheit the next time Diana showed up in VY Ted. I didn't have to wait long. On a sweltering Wednesday afternoon in August 2024, my phone pinged with a camera alert. There she was, bold as ever, slipping through my back gate with a key she'd somehow gotten her hands on. Dressed in a neon green swimsuit that screamed money, she sauntered around my pool like she was judging a 5-star resort. She tested the water with strips she'd brought, her confidence radiating through the camera feed. I watched, heart pounding, as she set up camp on my lounge chair, slathered on sunscreen, and headed for the pool steps. This was it. Diana dipped a toe in, her face twitching slightly. She tested the water with her hand, a frown creasing her brow. But her ego was bigger than her common sense. Maybe she thought the sun had warmed the surface. She lowered herself in, and I swear I could feel her shock through the screen. Her smug grin melted into confusion, then discomfort, as the 98 degrees Fahrenheit water enveloped her. She tried to play it cool, probably thinking she could outlast it, but within seconds, she was flailing. The pool had become a giant, unrelenting hot tub, stripping away her composure. Diana splashed frantically, desperate to cool off, but the heat was everywhere. She scrambled for the edge, her usual grace replaced by panic. The slippery tiles betrayed her, and she slipped, her silver hair plastered to her face as she gasped for air. For a glorious minute, she was a mess of limbs and desperation, her HOA queen facade crumbling into the water. Finally, she hauled herself out, red-faced and wheezing, her expensive swimsuit clinging to her like a second skin. The best part? She couldn't even complain. She wasn't supposed to be there, and she knew it. Unbeknownst to Diana, my cameras had captured every second of her meltdown in high definition. Her trespass, her struggle, her humiliation, it was all there. But the real kicker came when my neighbor, Mrs. Lynn, who lived across the fence, caught the aftermath on her phone. She'd been pruning her roses when Diana's shrieks drew her attention. Within hours, Mrs. Lynn's video of Diana's soggy, furious exit was lighting up our neighborhood's group chats. The footage showed her storming out, muttering curses, her usual poise replaced by raw embarrassment. She looked less like the tyrant who'd terrorized us and more like a drenched, defeated woman whose entitlement had finally bitten her back. The neighborhood erupted. For years, residents had gritted their teeth through Diana's reign of petty terror. She'd find people for Leah VYing mailboxes unpainted, demanded lawns be mowed to her exact specifications, and made life miserable with her endless rules. Now, we had proof of her hypocrisy caught trespassing, using my pool like her personal playground, and losing her cool when it backfired. The irony was exquisite. The woman who'd built her empire on catching others' missteps had been exposed breaking serious rules. By Thursday morning, my phone was blowing up with messages from neighbors hungry for details. Mrs. Lynn's video had spread beyond Charlotte, popping up in HOA horror story forums online. The Pine Grove HOA board was hit with over 50 complaints about Diana's VY, or in a single day. Residents who'd stayed silent for years found their courage, sharing tales of her power trips. When Diana called an emergency board meeting to spin the narrative, it was a catastrophic misstep. Instead of her usual loyalists, over 100 residents packed the community center, many clutching screenshots from the pool video. The meeting was a 3-hour demolition of Diana's reign. Neighbor after neighbor stood up, airing years of grievances, her fines, her threats, her relentless control. The final nail came when someone revealed that Diana's inspection PRIVY leges were a lie. The HOA bylaws granted no such power, and her actions were straight-up criminal trespassing under North Carolina law. The board, cornered by a community in revolt, had no choice. In a unanimous vote, they stripped Diana of her presidency, banned her from future board roles, and demanded a public apology to every resident. Her face during the vote was a study in Shocky's wide. Mouth trembling, the untouchable queen realizing her throne was gone. Diana tried to fight back, hurling threats and excuses, but the room was done with her. The board sealed her fate by forwarding the trespassing EVY Denke to the Mecklenburg County Prosecutor's Office. She could face jail time, fines, and legal fees for the chaos she'd caused. As she stormed out, no longer the bully who'd ruled us, she was just a woman facing the consequences of her own hubris. It was more satisfying than I'd ever imagined. The prosecutor's office didn't waste time. By mid-August 2024, Diana was summoned to court, staring down up to 6 months in jail and due $5,000 in fines. In the courtroom, as the judge read the charges, her composure cracked. She gripped the table, pale as a ghost, her empire of fear reduced to a rap sheet. My pool was mine again, and the neighborhood felt lighter, freer, like we'd all woken up from a long, petty nightmare. But here's where it gets messy, and I want to hear what you think. Was I wrong to set the trap, knowing it would humiliate Diana so publicly? Should I have kept pushing the HOA board instead of taking matters into my own hands? And what about Diana? Does she deserve jail time, or was her public shaming punishment enough? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit that like button if you felt the rush of her downfall, and subscribe for more stories where entitlement meets its match. Let's keep this debate roaring.